Well, we're going to get to the bottom of it right here. Let's go to the source right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Adam Schefter. What's up, Schefter?
Yay! What's going on, guys? That was all Ty. Ty said everything about Micah Parsons. That was not me.
That was not okay. So what are you hearing then? Other than what Ty said, what are you hearing about this Micah Parsons situation, Schefty?
Well, look, I also want to preface by saying these things always can change, and situations often change at the end of August and September. It changed for CeeDee Lamb last year. It changed for Dak Prescott last year. This one doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way today. That doesn't mean it can't change, but the way that it's tracking, it feels more likely that these sides are headed for a divorce today than they would be for a new deal. Now, I don't know that it'll play out that way, but that is what I see when I look into my crystal ball. Now, I don't know whether that means there will be a trade now or after the season. I think the most likely scenario would be that he's there this year, his contract expires, they franchise tag him, and then after they franchise tag him, then they have the ability to go and try and trade him. But there's a lot that has to play out here. It's unsettled. And all we know is that there are, I think, hurt feelings on both sides. There have been zero contract negotiations discussions since late March, early April.
Wow.
They haven't come close to a new deal. The players demanded a trade. Like I say, it just feels different than Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and we'll see if they change that here in the last 2 weeks, but that's not how it feels today.
Schefter, the Cowboys knew this was coming, though, right? They knew they've seen what Micah Parsons has done for this team. They knew they were going to have to pay him. Why is there going back to March? You're saying how is there not much communication with this?
I mean, I think if we just track and follow everything that's been said and done publicly, you can piece together the pieces of the puzzle and come up with the situation. Jerry and Micah were meeting. Jerry thought he had the framework of a deal done with Micah. Micah did not feel that way. Micah never saw a contract, never saw a piece of paper. Nothing was put down on paper. Jerry Jones himself has said this summer, when I bought the Dallas Cowboys for whatever he paid, $135, $150 million, he did it, as he said, on a handshake agreement. I think Jerry felt like there was a handshake agreement with Micah when his agent, David Mulgeta, was not involved. Micah came out after the owners' meetings and said, any deal that gets done will include my agent, David Mulgeta. They have not had any talk since then. None. I think the Cowboys were upset that Micah didn't move forward with them. I think Micah wasn't happy that they didn't feel comfortable or try to get the deal done with his agent. In the interim, we've seen Max Crosby get paid. We've seen Myles Garrett get paid. We've seen Danielle Hunter get paid. We've seen TJ Watt get paid. We've seen all these pass rushers get paid at a time where they're not even talking to Micah about a new contract. And then Micah issued a lengthy statement a couple of Fridays ago requesting a trade from the Dallas Cowboys, in which he laid out the whole situation that we're talking about here. It's all there. It's all there.
Right
Just
there.
read it.
Yep.
Okay, so all we're doing is talking about everything that's transpired, interpreting it, and putting it into its proper context today. In negotiations, things change. All of a sudden, talks restart. AJ, you've been around the league a long time. There have been any number of strained negotiations that all of a sudden got done at the end of August, right before the start of the season. Mm-hmm. My point is, and I could be wrong, I don't see this one going that way. I see this one going in a different direction. I see this one today headed to a divorce, whether that's after the season, whether they franchise him once, twice, whatever it may be. That's where it feels like it's going, and it's up to both sides to change that narrative and get some talks done and go from there. And we'll see if they can do that.
That's great.
Yeah, we know money can change a lot if Jerry comes to the table and offers what they're looking for. But I wanted to pivot quickly. Daniel Jones, just named starter of the Indianapolis Colts. Was this something you expected? The timing? Did you expect Daniel Jones to be named the starter? And what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think from the moment Daniel Jones signed with Indianapolis, I thought he had a clear-cut advantage. Again, let's follow the money. The Indianapolis Colts went out of their way to go sign Daniel Jones. They paid him, I believe, $14 million this season, which is less than a starter, but that is way more than a backup. And it's more than the Pittsburgh Steelers are paying Aaron Rodgers, which gives you an idea of how much Indianapolis wanted Daniel Jones.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Schefter, we might have to get you back.
Call you back, Schefter.
Zito's going to get you back. We're going to have to call you back there, Schefter. I don't know. I mean, what is it with the Micah situation, though? How does Micah – so all of a sudden he's just going to dress and go practice?
That's what does make sense.
Game week 1? Like, what is that? Just because he don't want to get fined?
He's playing on a 1-year deal, too. He's playing on the fifth-year option. Like, it's just crazy, like, how do we get to –
It has to get done, right?
I mean, you would think, but for Schefter to be saying his head towards a divorce.
Yeah.
For Schefter to be that strong.
Yeah, that's pretty
something's
huge.
And that's what makes no sense is if that's the plan after the season. Like, do you think you're going to win the Super Bowl this year if he plays? Like, why don't you just trade him? Why don't you just trade him right now? And while his value is the highest, because what if he plays this year and gets hurt in Week 14? Then it's like your return might not be the same as what you would get right now. Like, so yeah, that. Because otherwise, I mean, we know how this goes, especially with the Cowboys. Like, you're telling me this is just going to hang over the team the entire season and it's not going to be a big deal and we're never going to talk about it again until he gets traded. Like, no. Like, this will hang over the team the entire year. It'll be a huge issue. And we've seen that story play out 100 times before in Dallas.
Yeah, we have Schefter. I believe we got you back. I'm sure we got a little better connection there. As far as Micah goes, like does all of a sudden if let's say they don't work out anything, he doesn't get traded, come week 1, he just dresses and he plays, or what?
Well, that's the other part of this, right? I mean, we have Jerry Jones himself saying that he doesn't know that Micah is going to be playing in week 1. Micah still hasn't practiced. He's got back tightness all summer long. Okay? So there are all these things that are just out there. And until the two sides squash it in one way, which they may or may not, that's why I believe it's headed the wrong way. That's my interpretation of it. That's based on conversations I've had. So we'll see. If all of a sudden they can get together and make his back right and get a deal done and he's playing and live happily ever after, then that's great for them. But it doesn't feel like that's going to be the case.
All right, let's say, Schefter, this divorce does happen like you're alluding to. Who are some of the real players out there that are in position to make a real move for Micah, a real aggressive move? I would assume it'd take multiple firsts at this point probably, but what team do you have in mind? Based on the teams you may be spoken about, and what do they think about what's going on in Dallas, but what teams do you have in mind that are real players in this situation for Micah?
Well, Darius, I would say every team in the league would have interest, but I want to be very clear. I don't know that it's going to happen now. I don't think it's going to happen now. Okay? I think there's still a lot of X left in this play that have to play out before we get to the spot where Dallas is trading Micah Parsons. Again, could it happen? It could. I don't think that's the likely scenario, just like I don't think the two sides coming together for a contract extension is also a likely scenario. I think, to me today, it feels like they're going to kind of put up with each other this year, and then the Cowboys would have the franchise tag, and then they would put the franchise tag on him, and then all of a sudden, next offseason would be the offseason of the Micah trade. I think that one, of all the scenarios, feels to be the most logical today. Now, we'll see if something changes. It certainly can. That's part of the deal when we're on August 19th. There's still 2 weeks, but the Cowboys open their season 2 weeks from Thursday night. Micah still hasn't practiced yet. So I would say to AJ, as a linebacker, Darius, you tell me, how would you feel about not practicing all summer? And how effective and how much do you think you could play in an opening game where you haven't really practiced all summer?
I mean, I'd want to get a couple reps in. I'm not going to lie. I want to get my body conditioned a little bit. But Micah, we know, is an absolute physical freak. He can run all day long. He can bend and turn the corner like nobody else on the planet. Yep. And he's super powerful. So especially as an outside rusher, you could throw that dude in. I mean, even if he plays half the snaps, he still might get 4 sacks and cause 2 fumbles. So he could do it.
We saw it with Nick Bosa, right?
Nick Bosa.
And he kind of started.
And then Jamar Chase did it last year too.
Yeah.
And he had a triple crown. It can be done. It's just not ideal. But again, let's see what they can get done in the next 2 weeks, if anything. I don't think they're going to get a contract done. I could be wrong. That's my guess.
Has Jerry ever drafted a guy that at Micah's caliber, we know the guy's on a different stratosphere than most people, like he's an absolute superstar, and let that guy walk and not re-sign him? Have we ever seen Jerry do this before?
Well, they're not going to let him walk. They're going to trade him.
I'm saying not give him a second deal, that second deal.
The only other one that I could think of that they traded away, the one player that they traded away, there was a cornerback, Thomas Everett, a defensive back that they traded to the Buccaneers right after his Pro Bowl season. They traded Herschel Walker at midseason at the beginning of Jerry's ownership for obviously a haul of picks that remade the franchise. And if they ever got into a situation where they were, in fact, trading Micah, which, again, I just think becomes more and more likely if this offseason continues the way it's gone, then it would be another haul of picks that I would think would be comparable to what the Raiders once got back from the Chicago Bears for Khalil Mack.
Okay. Go ahead, comment.
Yeah, Schefter, you kind of broke up after the Danny Dimes question, but going back to that, what was kind of the route to Danny Dimes? Steichen mentioned, hey, Danny Dimes doesn't have a leash. He's going to be the starter all year. Does that mean AR might be traded? Does that mean, hey, they're still going to give AR a chance next year, whether Danny Dimes, plays well and re-signs or, signs elsewhere? What should we take away from the Steichen press conference and Danny Dimes being the starter?
Yeah, to me, the takeaway was the most significant thing that Shane Steichen said today was this is not really a trial basis. This is not a short-term experiment. Daniel Jones is the guy that they're planning to have start the season. Now, that doesn't mean that Daniel Jones is going to play at that level all year, but he's going to be given every opportunity to have an extended run. And if he plays well and they're winning games, then it's his job for this season. And if he plays well like that, you'd have to figure that they're going to bring him back again while they continue to look at another quarterback. So it's all there for Daniel Jones, whereas it's not there right now for Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson becomes the backup. I don't think they're looking to deal him, but maybe there's a team out there that says, hey, we really value Anthony Richardson and we'll give you an offer that you can't pass up. I don't think somebody would do that right now because Anthony Richardson's stock is low. But you never know how teams view a quarterback. There are certainly some teams out there that could use another quarterback, but my guess would be that Daniel Jones, it's his job. He will be the guy. That's what they want to have happen. Anthony Richardson will be the backup. And by the way, the Colts don't know that Daniel Jones is going to be great all year long. He may not play up to their expectations in his capabilities. But if he does, he's going to be the guy. If not, they have Anthony Richardson on the bench. And then after the season, they have to make a decision on his fifth-year option. And if he's not playing this year, that's a simple decision. I wouldn't expect that they're going to pick up the fifth-year option. He'd be back in Indy next year. Might be the last year in his contract, or maybe they look to deal him. But there's so much that has to play out. There's so many ways that all these situations can go. We're just trying to give the most accurate assessment of them today on August 19th as they currently stand.
Yeah, Schefter, do you see a situation where Danny Dimes does play very well, but then similar to Darnold, like he leaves Indianapolis and then the Colts just go with AR next season? Or do you most likely see Danny Dimes staying in Indy if all goes well?
Well, it seems like we're seeing more and more of these scenarios over time where quarterbacks who were once high picks go on to have some level of success elsewhere. You mentioned Sam Darnold doing that in Minnesota last year and parlaying that into a starting job with the Seattle Seahawks. We saw it with Baker Mayfield, essentially run off in Cleveland and Carolina, turns it into a starting job in Tampa and thrives. I mean, this is Alex Smith, my colleague at ESPN. That happened with him.
Yep.
So there's a history. Now, listen, there are plenty of quarterbacks that wash out that it doesn't happen for, but we've seen enough examples to think, okay, Daniel Jones has a chance to shine this year. And I can tell you this, that what was interesting to me going into free agency, when you spoke to some teams about quarterbacks and having them assess quarterbacks, there were multiple head coaches that I spoke to who really were interested in Daniel Jones and value Daniel Jones. And I was like, I was a little surprised. I was like, wow.
Which one?
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you, there was a higher opinion of Daniel Jones in the coaching community than there was in the public. So there are enough coaches who believe that he's capable of playing well, and he'll have that opportunity. If he plays well, he could turn into Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. If he doesn't, then that'll be it for him in the NFL.
Schefty, let's go to a guy who we've talked about a ton since the Super Bowl when he came on this show, and that is Trey Hendrickson. Now, we haven't talked to you, though, since it's come out that they are potentially exploring trade options for Trey Hendrickson. Do you know what the latest is there, and is that actually something that you think could happen?
I don't think it's anything different than really what's happened all along.
Okay.
In the sense that he's asked for a trade. Cincinnati always was going to have to be knocked over with an offer that they didn't get in February or March, that they are less likely to get in August or September. The Bengals would have to be willing to almost look the other way and say, we're going to take 50 cents on the dollar to trade him, which they have never been willing to do. Does that mean a trade can't happen? No. Do I think a trade is likely to happen? No. They have to figure out a way. Now, what's interesting, and it's going to be going on here with Trey Hendrickson, with Terry McLaurin, even with Cam Hayward in Pittsburgh.
Whoa.
Sorry, Tone.
Whoa.
These guys are all going to have decisions to make about how they want to handle the season. And every one of them is going to have to decide, okay, are we willing to play? Now, you asked about Trey Hendrickson, and Trey has been very emphatic on the record publicly about the fact that he's not going to play this season on his existing contract that's scheduled to pay him $16 million this year. Now, what does that mean? How is he going to handle? I don't know. Does that mean he retires at the start of the season? I guess it could be. Does that mean his back is going to tighten up or his hamstring's going to be sore and he can't play? I will say this. I do believe Trey Hendrickson is a man of principle, and he's been very outspoken about the fact that he's not going to play for $16 million this year.
Schefter, your co-host, Ty Schmidt has something for you.
Yeah, Schefty, do you have any update on Jordan Love? He was back on the practice field today after that thumb surgery on his left hand, and I think he threw it pretty well in 7-on-7, but they did say that he's going to have very, very limited reps with their practice with Seattle. Is there any concern about whether or not he's going to be 100% good to go for week one?
No, that's why they did the surgery, because I think that they expected that he would be able to get back, and they're ramping up slowly. This is not anything that's unusual, and there's no reason to subject him to anything that is unusual. So I think it's a case where basically he's on track to be ready to play in the opener against the Detroit Lions, and I think that they feel pretty good about that.
Hey, Schefter, before we let you get out of here, you dropped a bomb on us last year right before the season started with the Christian McCaffrey news. I know a lot of fantasy football drafts are happening right now. Any other breaking news you have for us that may be under the radar as far as fantasy drafts go?
Well, Darius, I'm happy to share all of that as soon as I conduct my 2 drafts.
Oh, you
dog, Schefty.
Sneaky little. Should have expected
something. No. Here's what I would say. We got a couple of guys out there with soft tissue injuries like Justin Jefferson and Devon Achane, and these guys are unbelievable players. I learned last year, with Christian McCaffrey, that to me, as great as some of these players are, and they're awesome, I think their fantasy value, you have to factor, if there's a soft tissue injury, I think you got to think twice about taking a guy in the early part of the season, because I think we learned that last year. But fantasy like that, like little things, Brian Robinson getting traded all of a sudden, Bill Krosky Merritt, his value goes up. I mean, this happens all the time. Jalen McMillan, the Buccaneers wide receiver. Sounds like he's going to be on IR to start the year, which means, okay, that's going to be more opportunities for Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka right away. So there's always fallout in all of these situations. And there will be again. So that's the situation.
All right, Schefter, appreciate you, man. We know you're running all over the place. Thank you again. I'm sure you'll be back on the show very shortly. But, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Schefter.
Yeah.
Schefter.
Hey.